Hey again, guys. You are listening to the Simple Electronics Podcast, and I'm your host, Another Maker. We have a very special guest with us this week. Some say the reason you never see his face is that he and Big Clive are actually the same person, and that his mat is actually blue, but he hasn't figured out how to set the colors on his camera. He is Simple Electronics. Welcome, Simple.
Wow, that was a great intro.
Thanks.
That was fantastic. And there's a little bit of truth in that. If you look at my thumbnails, the mat changes colors pretty much every single thumbnail.
Nice. I thought it'd be kind of fun if the world got to hear you being interviewed. And so in the event that somehow someone has miraculously stumbled across this podcast and has no idea who you are, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Oh, geez. Me. Who the heck would want to hear about me anyways? Well, I'm just some dude in Canada. I'm basically, I guess, a professional automotive technician would be the right term, but a mechanic for the layperson. I am also a contract professor teaching the automotive trade at a college. And I happen to have a YouTube channel in neither of those specialties. So, yeah, that's me.
So with all those different hats you wear, what does a typical day look like for Mr. Simple Electronics?
Well, being a contract employee, there's no typical day. I guess I can sort of imagine one. So typically, my day is sort of taken over by what I have to do on that very day. So if it's a teaching day, which is 5 days a week, I am pretty much getting my courses ready or getting my knowledge right, getting all the last finishing touches on the stuff for my students. Then I go to school, yell at students for a couple hours, try to make sure they don't kill themselves, and then head home, kick my shoes off, watch some YouTube, record some YouTube, or do some editing, and then go to bed around 10 if I haven't fallen asleep by then. If it's a day that I have my regular work, my automotive technician work, then basically the whole day is just automotive work. And when I get home, I'm just so exhausted that I'll typically only do the watch YouTube part. I won't really do a lot after work because I am usually spent by then. And if it's my day off, well, then you could probably find me watching YouTube or playing video games with my wife, which is Veroac. She has a streaming channel and a YouTube channel, and she does art, she does all sorts of stuff. So that's kind of what my day looks like.
Interesting. So I was thinking about it. You were talking about yelling at the kids or the students. What kind of stuff do you have to yell at them about?
Well, I've been using yelling kind of literally. These days, since COVID started, basically I have to literally yell because they have to stay sort of 6 feet apart. And in a workshop, there's a lot of noise. Our HVAC system makes a lot of noise. We have lots of echoing walls. We have equipment starting up and stopping. So I literally have to increase my voice so they can hear me. So I'm literally yelling at them. But I think what you're asking is what kinds of things that I have to do or have to tell them to make sure that they stay safe. Well,
right.
At the moment, I'm working with sort of new entrants to the trade, people who have never worked in a shop. We're sort of teaching them how it works in a shop so that when they start working, they'll keep their job. Basically, it's to set them up to be successful in the trade. So, and I mean, that's literally like taking a screwdriver, being this is a screwdriver. There's different ends to the screwdriver and whatever. So it's really people who have no clue about any of that because they had no guidance in it or they had no interest or whatever. That's the program basically I'm doing now. So, I mean, I can tell you some stories. For example, after 8 weeks of teaching them how to kind of act around cars and whatever, I still had 2 students that tried to remove the wheel off of a car without even lifting it off the ground. Yeah, but
wow.
and it's hard really to put yourself in the position of a person who can't think through those steps. But it's just if you had a bad day in your math class you might totally fail a math test. But if you have a bad day in a shop like that, you can end up killing somebody. So figuratively, I have to yell at them. I have to make sure that they know exactly what's going on and they're not endangering themselves. I don't yell specifically for that, but I mean yelling figuratively, and then I have to yell literally because they can't hear me because they're across the shop. So those are that's what I mean by yelling at people.
Yeah, there's 1,000 ways to kill yourself in a shop. In Alaska, we had a tire changing device that we called the Widowmaker. It was had to be late 70s, early 80s, and none of the safety features that you have. And there's just this amazing amount of force used to take a tire off of a rim, and every once in a while, the little pry bar thing would just come flying. I had it fly out and break a rib when that thing flew off. There's just a 1,000 ways to hurt yourself in a shop. I have a question. So you teach something that I would imagine you have a mix of people who are straight out of high school and people who are coming back as a second career. Is that true?
Yeah, absolutely. We've got some students right out of high school, but I think the vast majority of them are relatively new Canadians. Actually, they've just immigrated here not too long ago. They have really good skill sets from their home countries that are not recognized here. So they're looking for work. And basically, my program is an initiative by the government. The government's paying the college, and the college pays me. Basically, we built a program to get anybody who has no experience in a garage setting, comfortable in a garage setting, to get and keep a job. And so, yeah, I think we have a good mix, but mostly it's like new Canadians or Canadians that haven't been here very long, and they can find employment because, I mean, these people have skills and talents, but I guess they're looking for sort of like a skilled trade, basically. Instead of working at Walmart with their skill sets, we want them working in skilled environments where skills are necessary, and especially in ones that have a skill deficit. Like right now, the automotive trade, there's not a lot of people getting into it. So basically, we're taking these people that have the capabilities to excel, and we're setting them up to excel, basically.
Interesting. I like that. I really do. I have a question. So then when you think about the students that are coming in there, just to take a step back, I taught at the middle school and high school level several times over the years. And I was pretty amazed the last time I went back how that generation was really struggling with thinking through problems like you're talking about. Are you seeing that with some of your younger students that are really lacking some of at least the built-in ability to solve problems on their own?
Oh, hell no.
Oh, really? Okay. You're not seeing that?
No, I actually, it's funny because I actually went to university as an adult, basically. I went to university, I guess, several years ago now, but I found that I couldn't keep up. My mental acuity and my problem-solving skills were not even close to the ones from the generations, like basically a half generation lower than me. These 18 and 19-year-olds were able to think circles around me. I think the lazy millennial, quote unquote, trope is just that. I think it's just a trope. It really depends on the people you hang out with. But I'll tell you, at least in my program, in the classes I was in, that was not representative. Like these students were they were thinking deeply enough to the point where they were challenging the authority of the university. They were wondering how come they're spending all this money when all the information is available online. They would do the lectures that the professors were giving them, but then they were going to places like open forums and Wikipedia and YouTube to actually find the meaning behind those papers instead of coming into class and have the professor do it. So basically they were like one step ahead of the professor. And I'm seeing the same thing on the shop floor. My younger students, a lot of them had independent interests, and they went and they, like them with their parents, they bought a really crappy car, and they started rebuilding them together. It was like a father-son or father-daughter bonding thing. So they were like, why do I need the system when I can just learn on my own?
That's fantastic. And I will say, my last experience teaching, I know, was a little colored because of the fact that I was teaching coding and electronics, and it was at a relatively small school that had the same electives over and over again. And when I was teaching it, it was sort of the new elective. So a lot of people that didn't have actual interest in that subject still signed up for the class. And then when they got there, they realized, wow, I really don't care about electronics and coding. So I know that definitely makes a difference. This generation, man, I think about it, they have access to all of the world's knowledge just right in their pocket. And that's just so mind-blowing. When I first started working on cars, I had a girl ask me if I could change her alternator in college, and I literally had no idea what an alternator was. But one of the things my dad taught me was that if somebody put it together, I can take it apart. And so, I bought a new alternator, and I went down there and I looked in the car. I was like, oh, hey, that's what an alternator is. And I took it off and I changed it. We didn't have a YouTube channel that we could look up. And just the fact that they have, this level of access to knowledge is pretty mind-blowing. So that's good. That makes me feel pretty hopeful for the future.
I have more hope in the future than I do in the present. I think once these, I struggle. I call them kids. They're not kids. They're like 18 plus. They're just young to me. But I honestly think the world's going to be in good hands when they start taking power. And I believe that politicians should age out. Like, I feel like at a certain age, enough is enough, and let's get some new blood in there.
Yeah, I could see that. So I do have a question. I've listened to your other podcasts and I've heard you talk. I wasn't even really planning on talking about automotive stuff, but you always have interesting things to say. But I've heard you talk about the automotive industry and stuff like this. And assuming your students would never hear this, would you recommend someone go into the automotive technical trades in 2021?
Well, I don't have a soundbitey answer for that. And actually, I could answer it even assuming that my students hear it, because my opinion isn't really any different. I would say at this very moment right now, so December 2020, the automotive industry is not great. The automotive industry is undergoing a downward spiral where it requires a lot of knowledge to do my job, like I guess to be an automotive technician, to fix cars. It requires a lot of skills, a lot of knowledge, a lot of dedication, a lot of tools, a lot of expense. However, the tools, or I should say the salaries, let me just restart that. However, the salaries haven't kept up with the times. So I know my situation is not everybody's situation, but at the shop where I work, I've been making the same hourly wage since 2011, I think. So 9 years without a raise. Not great. However, the industry will hit a breaking point at some point. Just at my shop alone, we hire basically anybody because there's a lack of skilled people. And typically those people don't keep their jobs for very long because they're terrible. There's really a lack of good qualified technicians. And once there's enough exodus out of the trade, like we've already seen, then the trade will be forced to change. The trade will be forced to accept that we need somebody with a very specific skill set to do the job, and then the salaries will have to follow because you won't be able to find anybody. So just for an example, Junk from work, where he lives in like the north of British Columbia, Canada, and because there is nobody there, like it's a small town, there's nobody there. His shop pays something along the lines of like the mid 40s per hour, whereas I'm in the high 20s. So just his situation is that there's nobody living there. My situation is that that's what everybody pays and that's what everybody makes. But eventually, when they won't be able to find anybody to fill the ranks, the salaries will have to go up industry-wide. There's no choice. So I would say right now is a good time to get started because you're going to catch all the older people that are exiting out of the trade. They're just going to dump all their knowledge on you. They're generally like car nerds. They just want to talk about what they've learned and how they've done things and all this stuff. So you're going to absorb all that knowledge. They're going to get fed up and leave, and then the industry is going to change with only you, the fresh licensed technician, left in it, basically. So I would say now is a good time to enter. It's not a good time to be sort of like where I am.
And I would say overall, the types of skills that you're learning, I mean, even the simple thing, working on cars, I always used to try to get the part out, taking the minimal number of parts off the car to do it. And, over time you learn, just take the dang fender off, just go ahead and bite the bullet and make it easier on yourself or things like that. Just learning to go through and solve those problems and efficient ways to do things, and just how to use tools and break things down into smaller steps. Even if you go through the entire automotive program and then eventually find yourself in a different trade, I still think those type of skills are sorely needed.
Oh, they are. Problem solving, breaking down into smaller steps. These are all things that will make you a good programmer. That'll make you a good plumber. That'll make you a good lawyer. Like, it's all unique. Like, of course, like, I believe that if I were to do it again, I would definitely not do automotive. I would do something easier, like that pays more, I should say. Something like being an electrician or something. But at the same time, I don't really have any regrets, because I am who I am today because of the problem-solving skills I got from being an automotive tech, I guess.
Absolutely. That's awesome. Well, I'll stop talking automotive for a little while, and I'm sure most of the people on your channel know that you're from Canada, and I'd say at least 4 or 5 of my top 10 favorite YouTubers are all from Canada. And I want to know, what do you think it is about Canada that produces so much great YouTube content?
I'm not sure if being Canadian is really part of it. I feel like I can tell you, as a Canadian, we don't see ourselves separate from Americans. I guess like if you're like in Australia, right? You kind of feel like you're on an island. This is your island. This is your land. But as a Canadian, like, we feel really close to our American neighbors. Yeah. We really feel like when we see a movie and there's an American in it, we don't think, wow, that's so foreign, right? It's normal. And honestly, this is why we care so much about U.S. problems and U.S. politics and U.S. Victories. Like, for example, it's not uncommon around here to talk about the latest things that Tesla is doing, or what's his rocket company there? SpaceX. We talk about what Tesla and SpaceX and the Boring Company is doing all the time, because we feel like we're sort of part of it, right? Sure, we don't own the snowblower, but we can talk about it with our neighbors that does own it. You know what I mean? So I feel like when it comes to making YouTube content, we don't see ourselves separate from Americans. So I'm not sure that being Canadian has like an effect on sort of like what we do. And on top of that, I've never met an American face to face or in a chatting way that I didn't like. It's a meme that Americans are like sort of individualistic, gun-toting and whatever. But honestly, I've never met a bad American, and I guess it's because it's a self-selecting group, the people that I chat with. But yeah, never met one I didn't like, to be honest.
Yeah, I would say, if I had to take a guess, I would say that in general, and like you said, you've met mostly nice Americans, and I think Canadians are generally really nice. And I think that I will say that, especially compared to the Northeast where I'm from, I would say that even the pace of just talking and explaining things, you and Pile of Stuff and Gadget Reboot, I would say that in general, I've noticed you guys are a little bit more deliberate in what you say, and I think that's extremely helpful when you're explaining things, stuff like that. But and it could also be having long cold winters.
Yeah.
Little things like that. Just little differences and stuff like that. But anyway, yeah, I just love a lot of the Canadian YouTube channels.
That's interesting that you say something about like the deliberate way we speak, because I see the same things off of you and like Harry's YouTube channel, for example. Like I guess I don't really, again, as a Canadian, we don't really see the difference. There are some things that Canadians will put their foot down to be like, no, this is uniquely Canadian. But but no, I feel like communicators, like even like if you look at the big communicators from the U.S., like the ones that affect me would be like Neil deGrasse Tyson and what's his name, Bill Nye the Science Guy, for example. Like they're very deliberate in the way they speak too. So I'm not sure that's a Canadian thing.
Yeah, might not be. Just curious.
Yeah, interesting though.
So I have some questions about electronics and YouTube, but one of the things that I was most excited about doing this interview is the opportunity to help your audience get to know you on a more personal level. So I put together a couple of questions. They're, nothing too deep, nothing too scary, but just outside of the area of YouTube and stuff like that to start with. And the first one, we'll do a couple of food type questions. What is your favorite restaurant? I know you're not a Tim Hortons guy.
No. Nobody's a Tim Hortons guy. My favorite restaurant. So that's a tough one because my wife and I have to speak about my wife and I because we're both very cheap people, don't like to spend money. And honestly, it's been good because I don't really have any money to spend. However, I am a big pizza guy.
Okay.
So here in Ottawa, apparently, it's there's two types of food that I really love that are only found in this area. So one of which is pizza, and by that I mean Lebanese style pizza. So we have a large Lebanese population that came and settled in Ottawa, where I live, and I think it's because certain Lebanese people they know Arabic as their first language, and they know French as their second. And because we're so close to the Quebec-Ontario border where I am, where Quebec is primarily French, Ontario is bilingual, a lot of them have settled here in Ottawa, I guess, because they figure their French is going to be useful here. I suppose. I really don't know. I was born here, so I don't know why you would pick here. I have no idea. But they have a way of making pizza, which is... If you think of a New York style pizza, it's completely the opposite of what we have. And if you think of a Chicago deep dish, it's completely the opposite. So it's somewhere in the middle. It's a little bit thicker crust, a lot more generous on toppings, very greasy, very salty, very awesome. So there's a little joint that I know of, basically in a small part of town, actually a rough part of town, now that I think about it, but it's called Eastview Pizza. I would say that is the best pizza, hands down, any place I have ever been. And listeners, I've been to New York City. I've tried 4 different pizza places. All of them were recommended, and number 1 at some point or another, they are not as good. So if you ever come to visit Ottawa, take a little trip down from downtown. It's like 15 minutes, 10 minutes by car, something like that. Go try Eastview Pizza. So that's one thing. That's one restaurant. The other food, because I'm going to make this all about food, I guess, that we have the most here is shawarma. So shawarma is, again, it's an Arabic dish. It's made all over the world. However, apparently Ottawa shawarma is a bit different. So if you're here, grab yourself an Ottawa shawarma. I don't think I've found a single place that I didn't like. So just pick a spot and go to it.
Shawarma is one of those things that has just saved my life around the world because it's available in almost every country. And so, if you're thinking the food is sketchy in different places, you can just go and you can get a shawarma. They're giving you the outside of it. Everything's cooked well. Save your life.
No,
so, okay, let me ask you about this though. Design your perfect pizza. What's it have on it?
Time to be a stereotype. Canadian pizza. So for those of you that don't know, you probably have the exact same pizza, just called something different. But Canadian pizza is the regular sauce, pepperoni, cheese. but also mushrooms and bacon.
Okay. I'm good with you except for the mushrooms. Like no mushrooms for me, but yeah, I'm good with that. What's the deal with Canadian bacon? Do you guys really call it Canadian bacon up there? Or is it just you have that? It's kind of ham. Do you know what Canadian bacon is?
I do know what Canadian bacon is. You can buy them in the grocery stores, but only weird old people buy it.
Okay.
It's a little bit like, you know how Australians always get like the joke, like, "Hi, you gonna put a little shrimp on the Barbie?"
Yeah.
And they don't call them shrimp; they're called prawns. Right?
Right.
So it's a little bit like that. If you go to Canada, ask for bacon, it's going to be what you think of as bacon. It's actually bacon. Canadian bacon, I think, is a piece of like, it's like some sort of like ham tenderloin with pea meal on the outside. That's basically what it is. I think I've had it once in my life. I didn't like it. So it is what it is.
Yeah, the only time I ever have it, and I don't really eat Egg McMuffins, but I know it's what's on the Egg McMuffin. That's about where I know it from.
Really? Because here, if you order an Egg McMuffin, you have two choices, bacon or ham, and there's no like Canadian bacon edition of the Egg McMuffin.
Okay, so I'm guessing ham is the Canadian bacon.
Probably, yeah.
Because the Canadian bacon that they have on our Egg McMuffin just looks like a slice of ham. So I'm guessing that's what it is.
Interesting.
That's interesting. Yeah, man, McDonald's, just another kind of travel thing. McDonald's and those kiosks will save your life around the world. Like you can be in the middle of China and just, tired of eating food that you don't know what it is. And you can go in there and any McDonald's in the world, you just push the button to English and you can order whatever you want in your own language. And even if you don't eat McDonald's in America, you will eat it on a long trip around the world just because it's so homey.
Is it the same though? Like if you order a Big Mac in China, in the middle of like, let's say Shanghai, China, is it the exact same that you would get at home?
It is not. And in fact, that is one thing that McDonald's has done an amazing job of making things unique. Now they will have the Big Mac, but I'll say even the meat is a little different. When you eat the Big Mac in China, the fries I would say are pretty much the same anywhere else, but they also have a lot of local things. Like if you're in Chile, they only eat hamburgers for breakfast. There's no typical breakfast foods. If you're in Japan, they'll have teriyaki McChicken will be like the standard McChicken. And just wherever you go, there's something, it will be very local. Some of them will have shrimp and just all kinds of other things that you would never expect to find at on a McDonald's. But and it's all good. Like it really is. No matter where you go, it's all good. And I never eat McDonald's at home. But around the world, it's fantastic. And I will say, like around the world, I'm sure it's healthier. The portion sizes are smaller. The food is generally less greasy. They care what they're doing, things like that you don't necessarily get as much here.
That was something that really bothered me. I went to New York City and I just wanted like the largest drink they had at McDonald's. And it was tiny. It was the largest drink they had available was smaller than the size of our mediums here. And I was like,
and no refills.
And no refills
in New York.
I was like, what the? But I guess it's because they were looking at calories and stuff. Because even like Dunkin' Donuts, it was terrible. Because like my frosted donut only had like a tiny ring of the topping on top to meet the calorie requirements, I guess.
Yeah. Well, and the funny thing is that they put the same requirement if you get Diet Coke. Like, I mean, it's 0 calories, but they just push that. I'm not saying it's healthy for you, but they still push that same requirement on that. So
that's a good point.
Yeah, New York is special.
What happened with freedom?
It's not in New York. That's for sure. I used to work in New York, and it was just, I mean, it was amazing how difficult of a place it was to do any kind of work on those giant buildings. So it's unbelievable. Okay, so I know you said you watch primarily YouTube, but are there any TV shows that you're watching currently?
Geez, what am I? It's hard to say. So we are trying to watch The Mandalorian, which is a Star Wars TV series spinoff. I'm not sure if you're aware about Star Wars at all.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But I'm going to be, this is probably the most controversial thing I've ever said. It's not that good.
Oh, snap.
Yeah, I'm sorry. It's not. The problem is they're 35, 40-minute episodes, and everything always gets fully resolved by the end. So as soon as you have an episode which is going like some twist that you're not expecting. 10 minutes later, it has to be all done. So it's like, oh, something cheesy has to happen for it to end well. And then the things where the action happens right at the start, then it's just a long sort of denouement, basically the wrap up. So I don't like anymore the traditional one episode is standalone type TV. So that's a little bit hard. We're also rewatching Better Call Saul because I don't think we've seen the last season yet. So we were rewatching the previous season to try to get a hold of it. But I think that's what's going on right now is those two.
All right. Well, do you want to toss out any other things that you think are worth binging?
Binging. I personally like Silicon Valley. I think it's
okay.
I think it's again, controversial, but I think it's the Big Bang Theory for people who are actually into nerddom and not like laughing at nerddom. I like Game of Thrones was really good. I really liked Game of Thrones, although it is a lot for beginners to jump in because there's like 1,000 characters at the beginning. Don't worry, it gets thinned out really quick. I'm probably forgetting some, but those are like the major points. I would say in the last 365 days, those are the major things that stand out to me.
So we've been watching this show called Better Off Ted, which I think is about 10 years old, and it is very irreverent, but it's a show about this completely heartless, soulless company, and it basically has little takes on all of the big, heartless, soulless companies, and it is hilarious. And again, sometimes hits a little too close to home with the politics and stuff like that, but it's been pretty funny. So that's kind of what I've been going through right now.
I'll put it on my list. Maybe I'll find a box set on Amazon or something.
Yeah, that could happen. All right, so let's switch over to tools a little bit. We talked in our last podcast about Ryobi and some of the other stuff, but what is your favorite tool in your shop?
So my home shop or my...
Sure, yeah, your home that you own. Do you have anything you just like using?
That's a good question. That's actually a fantastic question. What do I like using? Well, I think... Does a 3D printer count as a tool? I guess it's like a tool maker.
Sure.
So recently, I've been playing a lot in CAD. And there's just something about creating something in CAD on my screen, based upon shitty measurements that I took with my shitty vernier caliper. And having it print out and work first try, that is some next level of satisfying. So I would say my 3D printer is probably my favorite tool because when I get to use it, it's always something fun. I can't believe that I bought the cheapest 3D printer I could possibly find at the time. And it's been perfect. It's failed so few prints. It's incredible. So I would think my 3D printer right now is the tool I'm the most vibing with, I guess, as the kids would say. How about you?
That's cool. It's kind of funny. Like the one that popped into my head is just a really stupid tool, but in fact, I've looked for them to try to send it to some of my other YouTube friends. But I have that utility knife that I use to open up my mailbag videos and stuff. And I have two of them. They're both Stanley. One's a Fat Max, and another one is just a regular Stanley. But it has dual blades, and a lot of times I'll keep a hook blade in one and a regular blade in the other. But the newer versions of that tool just have horrific reviews. But I have a couple of the older ones, and they're just, little things like that. It's not expensive. It's not fancy, but I just like using, just using well-built tools and things like that. Just little things like that. I love the impact drivers too. I'd say switching from a drill to an impact driver is life-changing when it comes to driving screws and stuff.
Yeah, I think the thing is, it's satisfying working with wood because you can usually build up something that's fairly big and fairly sturdy fairly quickly and fairly cheaply. But I don't have the space around here anymore. Now it's getting cold, so I can't take the tools outside to work. So it's basically, I think if you ask me in summer, after I had just built my new workbench, there'd probably be something in the woodworking realm. But at the moment, the 3D printer is love and the 3D printer is life.
That's awesome. The okay, so on the mechanic side, people have different brand loyalties or tools they like. Do you have a particular brand of mechanic-y hand tools that you like to use?
Hand tools, no. I have specific. I guess I have specific tools. I'm really not a brand person. There are some pneumatic tools that I will say there are a few brands that stick out for certain tools, but I guess like when I get to use my 3/8 ratchet 88 tooth Matco wrench, my ratchet wrench, that thing is an absolute godsend because it just works all the time. I could put a freaking bar at the end of it and crank things loose like you wouldn't imagine. It's got a flexible head, but it has also a lockout for it, so you can lock it to a certain angle. And so that thing is probably my most happy to use tool. But in pneumatics, it's all about Ingersoll Rand. I find I have a 1/2-inch impact gun, Ingersoll Rand 2135 Ti with the titanium sort of housing on it. The first composite gun to hit the market. Everyone laughed at it when it came out because, the old school mentality was like, well, that thing ain't steel, it ain't no good. But honestly, this thing breaks nuts like you wouldn't believe. Like it probably busts more nuts than dominatrixes, but
Yeah, I've got the I think I have the low end AR or IR 1/2-inch impact, and I've got I have a Butterfly. It's a fancy company. I have a relatively expensive Butterfly 3/8 that I like using, but I also have the 3/8 and 1/2-inch Ryobi battery operated ones, and it's just amazing how much they've replaced air for me. I mean, I bust out air every once in a while, but for the most part, I don't do enough to justify using them.
If you find the 2135 Ti, a 1/2-inch gun, at a thrift store or at a wherever you find your deals for, let's say for $100 or less, that is a killer deal. You can't beat it. That thing, you won't be able to kill that thing.
Yeah, I'll keep an eye out for it. I do have a 1/4-inch one too, a 1/4-inch air ratchet that I don't use a ton, but I do have it. So yeah, I'll keep an eye out for that. Maybe I'll sell my old one. So
yeah, once you try this, you won't go back. There's no way.
Okay. Yeah, I do. I had a bigger compressor. I haven't had a whole lot of tools stolen in my life, but I lent my big belt drive Craftsman professional compressor to a friend, and it got stolen at his house. And so now I'm using a DeWalt portable that just doesn't have the same capacity as that big old beast. So I know that's had an effect on my air tool usage.
Oh yeah, you need the volume.
Yeah, definitely. You need the CFM. So do you have any tools, either mechanic or home, that you have your eye on?
Yeah, yes, but no. So yes, mostly because the thing that I'm eyeing right now is a laser cutter. But the no is because there's just no way that I see in the near future to be able to A, afford one, and B, have the space for it. Because even if I could afford one, I don't really know where I'm going to put it. I have some space in my YouTubing space, but there would be nowhere to vent out of. Like I'd have to run a duct like 20 feet out to a window. So I would really love a laser cutter. And if someone's going to send me one, like if a company's going to send me one to review, I mean, I'll make it happen. But at the moment, aside from that, I don't really know, because I'm kind of one of these people that I'm very thrifty. And so if I have it in my mind that I want something, within 6 months, I'm getting it. I'm going to be on Kijiji, which is our Craigslist. Every day I'll have saved searches there, saved searches on eBay. I'll have like a camel pricing alert if something drops down. Like I am on it basically all the time. So it's hard for me to have like a want that isn't filled, because I'll find it for any budget. And it drives my wife nuts, because she doesn't know what to get me for my birthday or for Christmas, because like I have everything. Like I end up finding it. So it is what it is, I guess.
So I definitely share your cheapness thing, and if I was going to answer this next question, it would kind of go back to tools. But is there anything that you've bought that you actually felt like you cheaped out on and wish you would have bought something that was a little higher quality?
There absolutely is. But being able to recall it now is kind of difficult.
Well, I can tell you mine. So one thing, I deal with a fair amount of concrete, and you could drill into concrete with a drill, or you can drill in with a hammer drill. But the next step up is this thing called an SDS drill, and they have these splined bits. And what's nice about the SDS drills is they generally can drill or hammer and drill. And so like a lot of times they're called rotary hammers or roto hammers and things like that. And it's kind of mind blowing. Like if you ever hear a hammer drill, it kind of has a high pitch like zzz, like that. But there's more of a ka-chunk with an SDS drill. And you can just tell that it is it's doing a lot more than tapping. It is hammering when it's drilling through that concrete. And at first, I bought a Ryobi 18-volt version of that, and I got it for $50 on clearance. And I drilled the first 3 holes, and I was like, "This just isn't even worth $50 on clearance." So I bought the corded version, and I generally have the mindset like people would call me a Ryobi fanboy, but if it's a tool that you need 2 hands for, you probably also want a cord. Is sort of my mentality on that. So if it's a belt sander or if it's a rotary hammer, like it's fine to it's fine to drill a couple holes with a battery one. But if you're going to really drill or break up some concrete, you want a cord. Well, then I bought a Ryobi corded version, and it's fine. But in the reality is, I wish I would have spent a little bit more money on a Bosch. Like I can just tell that thing gets hot. When I drill 6-8 holes, and it's I wish I would have spent twice as much on a Bosch.
Oh yeah, so, yeah. I mean, I'm still trying to think about it. I'm a cautious purchaser. Aside from the stuff that is so cheap that there's no way you can lose out on the deal, like stuff on eBay or used or whatever, I am fairly cautious and very well researched when it comes to buying things. So I'm trying to think of like a major example that I should have just bought. Like I can think there's some studio lighting that I had bought back in my photography days where like I kind of wish I had waited for something else. But if I think about it, nothing else was available at that price range at the time. So it's really, I don't think so. I think it's all pretty good. I do take more risks when it comes to Amazon because I can just send it back. And like,
yeah.
I have a top secret item. I can just shake it for the mic here. There we go. I have a top secret item beside me that my Patreons will know about, but the general public won't know until at least next month. But that is, I took a risk on it, and it's garbage, so I'm sending it back, and I ordered something better. So I guess it's hard to really figure out anything like that. Like I've got like my monitors. Maybe I would have liked something higher refresh rate or higher resolution, but mostly I'm pretty well researched.
Yeah. So then my second question was going to be, is there anything you feel like you've really overpaid for or something like that?
Yeah.
Probably not then.
Yeah, well, definitely. There's some like stuff that I ordered from China that were too good to be true, and they ended up not true. So I have one of my most recent videos, and that people are going to be able to see, but you haven't seen yet because I haven't published it at the time of recording. But the Banggood 18650s, for example, I paid I think $16 US for, 20 some bucks Canadian, and they're completely trash. They're unusable. Like they have a sticker on them that says 4,000 milliamp hours. And I knew they weren't going to be. I was hoping at least 2,200, but even discharging them at 100 milliamps, some of them didn't even crack 900. So like they're absolute trash, and I wish I wouldn't have bought them. But Banggood's return policy is so trash as well. You have to take a video of the malfunction with the UPC and the packaging clearly visible. And garbage day was like a few days ago. It's gone. So
yeah.
I wish I didn't buy that, but I will tear them down for fun now, though.
You've had quite the quest to get some 18650s in your hands. Tell us a little bit about what the deal is with that in Canada. I
don't know. I think I honestly think it's a shipping deal. So you can go on Amazon and buy 18650s, but they're like $10 or $15 each. And that's for like low end, just regular Chinesium cells. If you want like an LG or a Panasonic 18650, they're like $22 a pop each. That's really expensive. I can't be spending $22 for a single 18650 cell. This is insane. And the same thing goes when you go on AliExpress, for example, and try to order 18650s. The shipping is to Canada is like $50 or $60 or $70 or $100 or $200. It must be somewhere in the shipping. Now,
that's insane.
Yeah, and I got around this because there was a sale on some flashlight on Amazon that included 4 18650 cells, and I paid like $25 for the flashlight and the 4 cells. So that was a way to get some. But very recently, in a video that is available to my audience, but not yet to you at the time of recording, a viewer actually sent me a whole bunch of salvaged cells, and that viewer is in Canada, so they avoided the shipping over the border thing. So now I've got a whole bunch of cells to experiment with. They're used, and they're not all that great quality, not all of them, but I'm thrilled to get them because 18650s are like the rarest thing here.
That's fantastic. I recently sent you a package, which you may have by the time this airs, but I accidentally had dropped a drone 50 milliamp, the little kind of foil pack lithium ion battery in there, and didn't realize it to the last second. And then when I was going back through it, I found an 18650 in there also. So I almost shipped you lithium ion batteries across the border. But that 50 milliamp one would have caught the entire thing on fire. That was a very poor quality, slightly bulging lithium ion battery. So I'm glad I caught that one before I burned the whole mail truck down.
That would have been hilarious if it would have showed up at my door just smoldering.
I will tell you a story. My mom used to work for the corporate office of Dunkin' Donuts. And, she just had this weird thing where she would send me, just as gifts, she would send me like industrial size quantities of the random ingredients that they had. And she must have gotten a deal on these 5-pound boxes of sprinkles. And she put them in a box. And around Christmas, around here, when UPS comes, they... a lot of times what they'll do is they'll have one UPS driver and then 1 or 2 people riding in the back of the truck, and they're just running to get packages out as fast as they can. So I was out at my driveway, and the truck pulled up, and the people opened the door, and I didn't know what was coming, but they opened the door, and there were sprinkles all over the floor of the truck. And the minute they opened it, I knew it was my mom. And sure enough, I was like, "What happened in here?" And they're like, "Some idiot shipped sprinkles." And sure enough, they hand me the package, and there's just rainbow sprinkles pouring out of the box as they're handing it to me, and I'm just like, "Thank you." So that was thanks, Mom. Appreciate that.
Have you ever heard of the website you can go to mail your enemies glitter?
No, but that's fantastic.
Yeah, so basically, well, as we know, glitter is the herpes of the craft world. So it gets everywhere. And you can actually, there's someone that runs a service where you pay them and they send an envelope, just a regular letter envelope with glitter in it, but not in a package, just in the paper envelope. So as soon as you open it, it goes everywhere.
That's fantastic. I don't know why I didn't think of that. My mother-in-law sends confetti and everything, and I'll open up a card, and we have to drive to our mailbox, so it's always in my car. I open the thing, and there'll just be random confetti falling out of a thank you note. It's just
that's hilarious. At least it's not glitter.
Yeah, at least it's not glitter. So I've got a couple of random questions for you. As a kid, what did you want to be when you grew up?
I wanted to be a lawyer.
Really?
Yeah, I had heard somewhere that they made a lot of money, so that's what I fixated on. Yeah.
So, you did the next best thing, became an auto mechanic?
Yeah, I guess as far as liars go, we both have roughly the same sort of public perception about us. But yeah, when I was really young, that's what I wanted. I wanted to be a lawyer. And basically there was this thing where in high school, a lot of the kids were talking about their parents were talking to them about how much money they had put aside for college, university here in Canada. And some people were like, yeah, I've got like 20 grand, I've got 10 grand, I've got 15 grand, I've got 50 grand. And just so you know, 50 grand will probably get you through a 4-year degree back then here in Canada. Right now it's more like 60 grand, but it's cheaper than the US is what I'm saying. I went home and asked my parents and they just kind of laughed. And you're young. I didn't know about we have like my province has a program to loan you money at zero interest until you're done your studies. Even I think you have a year after you're done to start doing payments without interest. And I was like, shit, I don't know what to do. And I was turned 17 at the time, got my driver's license, bought a car. The person I bought it from, it was a shady dealer, like one of these corner lots that change names every week. And so I bought it. It passed the safety check and they put it in my name. And then I brought it home. There was a weird noise from the rear, so I pulled the rear drums off, and the shoes were completely wrecked. They were there was nothing left. So it basically hadn't passed a legitimate safety. And I was like, you know what? I still owed my parents for a third of this car because I couldn't pay the whole thing up front. So I was like, I'm not paying anybody to do it. I'm going to get it done no matter what. And anybody who's worked on cars knows that drum brakes are like a pain in the butt.
That's what I was thinking. If you're going to start with brakes, starting with drums, that's a baller move.
Absolutely. So yeah, I got, it took me all of probably 6 hours to do the one corner. And the only way I got it done is that I got everything off. It took a long time to get all the springs off. The springs are extremely stiff. And then I was like, great, how do I put this back together? So I had to go jack up the other side of the car and take the other drum off to see what it's supposed to look like. But I got it done. And once I got it done, I had this sense of accomplishment saying wait a minute, I was going to, someone could pay someone to do this? I can do this. Why don't I do it? And then I get paid. And that was kind of the genesis of becoming a mechanic. So I was probably about 16, 17, maybe 16 when I knew I was going to be a mechanic, basically.
That's awesome. I tried to explain to my wife that there is, they always say that there's no pain like a woman giving birth or something like that. I always say there's no frustration like working on a car in an awkward situation and dropping a bolt 100 times. There's nothing that anybody who doesn't work with their hands, you've never experienced the kind of frustration of trying to get a drum spring on 100 times and having it fly and hit you in the face, or reaching your arm around something and trying to get a bolt to just come on or go off or something like that. There's just a different kind of frustration that unless you work on cars, you may think you understand it, you don't understand it.
Yeah, and I use that as an inspirational thing. I tell my students. I tell them when I help them to get something done, and they've been struggling with it, and then I just show them and I do it, and then the look on their face, they look at me like, "What the hell did you just do?" And then I undo it and I say, "Now it's your turn. I showed you how to do it. Now it's your turn." I use that as an inspirational moment. I tell them, they ask me, "How the hell did you do that?" And I say, "Look, I have dropped more bolts than you've touched. So stick with it. It's going to come. Don't worry about it."
And then you tell them that your wrist secretly dislocates and you can just reach around things.
No, you don't tell them that. You just let them struggle a little.
So, all right, this is kind of a bigger picture question. What is the best advice, or at least a great piece of advice that someone has given you?
I don't think anybody has directly told me something that has affected my life so much that I had remembered about it. I think most of the advice came from people that I respected, and I don't think there was a single tidbit of advice that they gave me that really directed me or stuck with me so much that I internalized it. I think what it is more is that you get advice and direction from your surroundings. And so if you surround yourself with great people, which I know a ton of, then you're constantly getting advice, even if it's not in the form of words. You know what I mean? Just being in the presence of greatness sort of like leads you to greatness. And I'm a firm believer that the person you are and you want to become will depend on the company you keep, because those are the people who you choose to have around you. And so, like, I can point towards things that you've told me, things that other YouTubers have told me. I can point towards things that teachers have told me in my formative years. But I think what they've said to me is much less important than the fact that they were there to answer my questions, and I learned from their example rather than like specific words. I don't know if that's cheaping out on your question, but I guess that's the way I'm answering it.
No, that's really good. And I've dealt with that also, just whether you need people like that in your life. And just like I said, talking to you guys, we talk about more than just YouTube, but having solid people to bounce things off of. And I mean, it could be something as stupid as how should I respond to this comment, or, those bigger life things. Having wise people in your life is so valuable. And I've had stretches in my life where I've been surrounded with a lot of wise people, and times that I haven't. And it's definitely lonely when you're not. When I was in Alaska, I was, the place that I worked, I was pretty much the boss of everybody within, everybody that I was friends with. And I mean, I was able to have some conversations and stuff like that, but it's just a different sort of reality that having some people, even if they were 5 hours away in Fairbanks, like that I could just bounce things off of, was just incredibly helpful. And so yeah, I could see that.
Yeah, it's a little bit cheap, but then again,
yeah,
I try to live my life attempting to be that person for somebody else. Like, I think you're the one who told me that someone was very helpful to you when you were first getting started in programming, and having that person around made the big difference for you. And then now you try to be that person for other people. I think that's the best way to do it. And I don't remember. I think it was Neil deGrasse Tyson who said on a podcast that I've heard years and years ago, where a student, no, it was Adam Savage. Someone had asked him at Comic-Con, what advice do you have for teachers? And he said, we all remember like one or two, maybe if you're lucky, 3 teachers who really shaped you and informed you and made you who you were. And he said, simply be that teacher for someone else. And I think Adam Savage and you completely separately came up with really the best way to lead your life, right? Try to be excellent for the people around you.
And I've seen you living that out. I watched some of your old videos in prep for this, and you had a video that was inspired by a video from Junk from Work, where you encouraged people to check out 3 small YouTube channels, and you were one of the early people to pop into my comments and encourage me, and and I just see you doing that constantly as these small YouTubers. You're in their comments, you're validating them, you're encouraging them, and I think that's really cool to see. In this podcast, you're giving people with smaller channels and people who are not as far along in this journey as you are, you're giving them a voice and a platform, and I think that's really powerful. So I love what you're doing there.
Well, thank you. But honestly, it's because I see their potential more than YouTube does. If I had money to invest into these channels, if I had money to throw into the channel to make them big, I would do so, because I believe like for example, your channel, I don't know how come you're smaller than my channel. I have no idea. There's no way. Like, you have 2 channels, and I feel like they should be, behemoths, but this is the only way I guess I can help, is I can tell people like, hey, if you haven't seen it, go see it. You're going to regret not seeing it. So I guess it's kind of selfish, because I feel like you should be up there. So I'm doing what I can to bring you up there. I guess.
Well, I appreciate that. You definitely have the rising tide, brings up all boats mentality, and that's so encouraging. One of the things you see on the YouTube dashboard is you see the channel sizes of the people who subscribe to you. So, if you subscribe to a channel that's small, there's a really good chance that they're going to see that on their dashboard more than just the fact that they had 30 new subscribers in the last month. And so that's just super encouraging. I saw, I don't know if you saw the video that Andreas Spice did talking about his channel growth. I guess he did it about a year ago, where he actually did use some YouTube advertising funds in the beginning to promote his videos. And that was one of his strategies that kind of got his up to a certain point. And then he basically said, I ran out of money that I could pour into promoting the channel, and now it either has to kind of sink or swim on its own. I hadn't really seen too many other YouTubers do that. Maybe they do, and I just don't know it. But I thought that was pretty interesting.
That is interesting. I'll have to check it out. But about your comment about people seeing that I've subscribed to them, oops. I have my subscriptions private. Simply, yeah, I have to explain myself. It's because, honestly, I watch a ton of YouTube, and I can't keep up with everybody. So I don't want anybody to feel bad because I'm not subscribed to them. Because even, I find, YouTube's algorithm is pretty good at suggesting similar content. So I actually, for example, every single video that Peter Sripol puts out, I don't know if you know who that is, but if you don't,
I don't.
He's basically the stereotypical American, but he's also a maker. So he supersizes guns and explosives and things like that. Anyways, he's really good. I watch every single one of his videos, but this week I realized I wasn't subscribed to him. YouTube just knew that I liked his content, and they just kept giving it. So I don't want people to feel bad that I'm not subscribed to them. So that's why I keep my subscriptions private, but I try to let myself known in the comments. Go hey, look, I'm watching your stuff.
Well, if you are a maker and you're looking for similar content, the other day I was sitting there on my TV and I went to Pile of Stuff's channel, which if you're not subscribed to that, you should be. But he does list his subscriptions, and he has, I probably scrolled through his subscriptions for an hour and probably found 100 new people to subscribe to. So if you're looking for some different maker-ish, electronic-ish type things, he definitely has a treasure trove of people that I've never heard of, and people with 500,000 subscribers that I've never heard of, but just really I've been kind of having fun looking at all this new content lately. So that's been good.
I just want to interject, Peter, if you're listening, hit me up. I want you on the podcast.
Fantastic. Okay, so what is I can go as long as you want. What's something that would probably surprise your viewers about you? Because again, I'm asking these questions, and it really, I want to say it's not really about the best advice someone ever gave you. I want people to understand how you process that advice. Like you're saying, the little bits here and there. I really want these people who spend so much time watching your content to understand you. So what's something that would probably surprise them? If they've seen all your videos and they've heard all of your podcasts, what do you think they wouldn't know about you?
Well, maybe something quite surprising is that my favorite podcast right now is the H3H3 podcast. So people who do listen to podcasts might know who that is, but he's basically a self-made YouTube channel who transitioned into a podcast channel, but he does such general stuff, very he's older. I think he's a bit older than I am, but he makes a lot of stuff that could be interpreted as sort of Zoomer humor and millennial humor. But man, is his podcast ever good? Recently I've been using my brain to the point where it's basically I'm brain dead. I've just been thinking so much, and it's just so nice to just listen to just nonsense. Basically nonsense. It's like YouTube drama and Twitter drama and whatever. But Ethan and Neela, they're killing it. Their podcast is so good. And even they have this character, Trisha Paytas. She's basically internet famous for all sorts of weird stuff. Like, she's not a human being that I think I would even hang out with. And somehow their relationship between like the main host and her, that was very combative when he had her on his show, and then they became friends, and now she's dating his brother-in-law. Like, I don't even know. Like, I feel like I'm watching like a reality show almost. But it is an amazing podcast. If you haven't listened to it, maybe you'll listen to it and not like it. I don't know. I love it. I can't get enough of it.
I'll have to check that out.
Yeah, so that would be surprising.
Good. I was going to ask you, actually, what are some of the podcasts that we're going to get into the podcast YouTube stuff a little bit. What are some other podcasts that you listen to?
That's it. That would be H3H3 is. Oh, sorry. I guess I listened to the Adam Savage Project as well.
Okay.
Adam Savage is like my North Star. He's like I think, like, if I set myself goals in this podcast, and my number one goal is to have Adam on the podcast. Now, I know it's not going to happen. I get it. It's fine. I understand, but I still need something to aspire to. So, having Adam Savage on the podcast would be my number one goal. Every time I see a new Still Untitled, I think it is titled now. It's just called the Adam Savage Project. I have to watch it. It's fantastic. But so that and the H3 is kind of the only ones I listen to.
Well, I know that my wife is listening to this podcast, so it's time to start tweeting at him again and seeing what you can do to make that happen. For those of you that don't know, Simple Electronics was on a live stream, and he mentioned Adam Savage, and so my wife started tweeting and Instagramming at him and stuff like that, trying to get him to drop into the live stream. But so yeah, that's still one of her life goals, is to make your life goal happen. So
I don't want to jinx it. This person, so there's a major, you know who I'm talking about. There's a major figure in electronics YouTube who said, yeah, he's down for a podcast. He just, has to make time. But I don't know if he's being polite or anything. It hasn't happened yet. But if I could get him on the podcast, that would be amazing. Like, basically this person, I don't want to say who it is because I don't want to put pressure on him, but to have like an hour and a half conversation with this person just shooting the shit would be amazing. All of you would be jealous. Like, everyone listening.
It's Joe Rogan, isn't it? It's Joe Rogan.
God, I wish Joe Rogan would be a great conversation. We would talk about...
He'd be amazing.
Yeah, but he does it for a living, right? I don't have anything to give him. Like, I don't have anything to offer him. So he would... I don't think he would do it.
Still be fun.
That's true. Actually, I lied. I do listen to Joe Rogan sometimes, but it really depends on the guest.
I'm the same way with that one. It has to be the right guest.
Yeah, Chappelle was on the other day, so I listened to Chappelle. A couple things I'm a little disappointed about, but I mean, hey, Chappelle's a human. He's allowed to his opinions as well, so it is what it is.
Yeah, he's Spotify only, and I don't have Spotify on my phone now, so we'll see.
No, he's on.
See if I decide to make the change.
He's on YouTube.
Oh, I thought December 1st he switched to Spotify only.
Oh, maybe December 1st. That's possible.
I think he did.
Chappelle was in November, so I'm not sure. Yeah.
So speaking of that, I've seen this question sort of asked a few times, and people want to know, what's it like to start a podcast and how's it going? I mean, you don't have to give us numbers and things like that, but just in general, what was that process like for you, and how do you feel like it's going as of December 2020?
It's probably the most stress I've put myself under willingly, I would say. It's very difficult to keep to a schedule. When I was in the conception portion of this podcast, I had spoken to my wife, and I was like, because honestly, she's the smartest person I've ever met. And I was like, I'm going to do it weekly. And she's like, you can't do it weekly. I'm like, I have to do it weekly. Podcasts are weekly. She said, you can't do it weekly. And I said, but I want to try. And she said, you can't do it weekly. And I said, but... And then I decided to go bi-weekly on her, or every 2 weeks. I don't know if that's bi-weekly or weekly.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, anyways. Every 2 weeks on her recommendation. And boy, am I ever glad that I did. So keeping to a schedule has been extremely difficult. There are some days where my mental state just says, nope, you're done. You've done enough work for today. We are not going anywhere. And I still have to edit the podcast, and I still have to give it to the guest at a reasonable rate so that they can listen to it and approve it or decline it. So far, everybody's approved, which has been pretty nice, actually. And then there's the other thing for an introvert like me who's very hard on myself, and I kind of downplay my importance to other people. Like personally, I don't downplay it. Well, I guess I do downplay it publicly as well. But anyways, I don't feel like I'm deserving of other people's time. To reach out to people that I don't know very well and asking them to be guests, it's very daunting. Probably for a good reason. Most of the guests have said no, or sorry, they haven't said no, but by omission, it's a no because they just don't answer my emails, which is fine. But yeah, it's very difficult. And the last, sort of, just to give you guys a perspective, the last episode with Billy Rubin was actually the second cold ask that I've done to someone with, I guess that's more popular than me in the space, who said yes. Like, she was thrilled to do the podcast, and I was beside myself when I got an answer from her because, I mean, especially in the 3D printing world, she's kind of a big deal. Like, this is a pretty big guest. She's not very big on YouTube yet, but I mean, I'll tell you, if you go look at her numbers now, they are way the hell higher than when I asked her. Like, she is a big deal. So yeah, I've asked a whole bunch of people and usually no replies. So that plays on my anxieties and stuff. But I'm lucky that I've been able to make some really good friends with really that are very easy to speak to, and they're very intelligent, articulate people. And if you look at the first 6-7 episodes, those are them. They gave their time, and you included, another maker. They gave their time to be part of the genesis of this, and honestly, for no gains. Like, they don't have anything to gain from it. They just graciously gave their time. So yeah, it's been difficult. It's been stressful, but I want to push through it, and I want to keep going. I don't see myself stopping anytime soon. So even if I have to do a couple solo episodes until I can get some more guests, it is what it is.
I've enjoyed the heck out of the podcast. Like, even people that I've watched 90% of their YouTube catalog. Like, there's just something about this format. You kill it in terms of how you host these things, and just the way you can tell I'm sort of asking you a series of questions, but you're just so much more natural at this type of thing. And I really enjoy it. Like, to hear you and Junk for Work or Pile of Stuff or Gadget Reboot or something like that, having a conversation. It's so cool because I'll watch every video Pile of Stuff makes, but just to hear him chatting. In fact, after your podcast with him, like, my wife and I went geocaching because, it sounded fun, and I had heard of it and never done it before. And it's just, it's just such a cool way to hear in just a more natural, unscripted way, what somebody's like, as opposed to these 10 to 20 minute edited pieces of content that we put out.
Isn't it great that all my guests have been super interesting? I haven't had a single dud. Like, everyone is just top-notch people. Like, even mind you, for me, what I get out of it is I get to chat with the greats. Like, I had an 1.5 hour long conversation with Pile of Stuff. I got a 2-hour conversation with you. I mean, there are people on YouTube, in our audience, that would kill to have 2 hours speaking with you. This is great. I'm on this end. Yeah, there's the downside. I have to do the editing and and whatever. But honestly, I literally got a 2-hour conversation, or 1 to 2 hour conversation with someone freaking awesome on the other end. And on top of that, I usually get to chat with them sort of with their guard down for 15 minutes before the podcast. So it's like meeting a new person. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun, and it feels like, two videos talking to each other, because it just, I've texted you, or not texted you, but I've talked to you in comments and text form and things like that. But just, you've never been able to respond instantly, or even when I've watched your live streams, like, you'll see something I typed, but it'll be 3 minutes after I type it, and it's really a cool format.
Yeah.
Speaking of the live streams, what is it like doing those? That seems like one of those things that I've never attempted it. I feel like I tend to say things that may require some editing from time to time, and I just think it'd be. I think it sounds fun, but what's it like for you to do that, and how do you make that happen?
Well, someone who isn't a YouTube creator would probably not understand this, but the best part of making YouTube videos is the interaction with the comment section. So if you take that interaction and you make it relatively instant, I won't say instant, but relatively instant, that's what live streaming feels like. So live streaming is actually my favorite type of content to make. It's just, in my household, my wife is usually streaming when I'm available to stream. And even though we have gigabit internet, something with reflections in our line, we don't have enough headroom on the bandwidth for both of us to stream at the same time. So honestly, she's a way better streamer than I am anyways, so it makes sense for her to go ahead and just make videos. But live streaming is where it's at. I love it. It is the best. On top of that, I get to see the community I've sort of built. Like the people who come by in the comment sections all the time. Those are the people chatting in the live stream. And similar to my podcast guests, they're all really smart people. Like, I have to say, my comment section, and I don't want to, diss anybody else's comment section, but my comment section is awesome. Like, for the most part, on the non-super popular wide reach videos, my comment section is the best. So yeah, you can take all that interaction and squish it into an instant sort of platform, and that's what live streaming is like. So if you haven't done it yet, I would highly recommend it. It's awesome.
It does seem like fun. I was going to ask you about that. How do you feel like you built that community up? There are definitely people who watch every one of my videos and things like that, but you definitely do seem to have more of a community of people who basically consider it a necessity to comment on every one of your videos or things like that, or most of them. And how do you feel like you went from, people who watch your videos to a community?
I don't actually know, because I don't get the sense of community until those live streams. Like, I get sporadic comments here and there, but you have to admit, like, I put out a lot of videos and they're not all the same topics and they're not all the same quality. And so I'm seeing patterns where some people comment on some videos and other people comment on other types of videos. So it's really hard to get this sense of community until I do those live streams or when I go hang out in my Patreon.
I was going to ask you about that. If you feel like Patreon, because I sort of would imagine that when someone becomes one of your patrons, that they do feel more of a sense of ownership. They feel, if they're getting early access to those videos, they feel probably more inclined to watch them and comment on them and things like that. And I almost wonder if they sort of create themselves, at least partially, through Patreon.
Yeah, I would say, but again, my patrons are quite diverse. Like, a lot of them don't comment and don't watch the videos. They're literally like, I asked them if they needed more time to early access the videos, and they're like, I don't know, I'm just here to support. Like, I don't really care. And so it's like, it's tough to draw a line. I do have a couple very vocal Patreon patrons, which is great on a live stream. And there's some that comment on pretty much all my videos. So maybe that's what it is. They have a sense of ownership in the channel. And honestly, my channel wouldn't be where it is today without them, because they're like little cheerleaders all the time. Like, they really push me to do well. So there's that. But I don't really know how you build a community, to be honest. I think I think it's just the type of people I've attracted are the sort of Arduino-y, technically minded, sort of open to learning type people. And those are the people that self-select for being awesome, I guess. I really don't know.
That's awesome. One of the things I like to do, and this sort of just as we sort of get a little bit more to the end, I think about it. I like to go on someone's YouTube channel and sort the videos by oldest to newest. And if I do that on your channel, it takes me back to August 10th, 2016. And there is a video about a DC to DC step-down power supply. Is that your first video, or did you have other videos before that you deleted?
No, I think that's the genesis. I think that's number one.
Well, because it's so weird, because kind of poking fun. It's the worst thumbnail on your channel, and you've got a red font over your purple mat. But other than those two things, it's remarkably, so in other words, the production value is better now. But you were the same person. You were, you had your purple mat. You did. I was amazed. Like, I thought you did just as good of a job explaining stuff back then as you do now. Like, it's very impressive for a first video you put out there. What did you think when you uploaded that video, when you started this journey down the YouTube channel over 4 years ago now? What were you expecting, and have you gotten what you expected, or what? How did all that go for you?
I'm a very try stuff and throw it onto the wall and see if it sticks type of person. So I was not expecting for like my channel to get to where I am today, but when I hit upload, I was hoping. So basically, I thought, there's YouTubers who I really like. Like back then, I was probably watching the entire of Julian Eilert's back catalog, and I had found Big Clive kind of by chance. We can talk about that a little bit later if you'd like. And I was like, you know what? I can do this. I don't know if I can do it as well as them. I just know I could do it. And I need to learn more electronics. So I think at that point I had already bought an Arduino, and I already had a couple little things. I had found out how inexpensive it was to buy transistors and stuff like that, and I was playing with transistors. So I was like, okay, if I have to know something well enough to make a video about it, then I've learned it. So I'm going to use it as a learning tool, and I'm going to put it online, and hopefully people like the video, and eventually maybe I'll make, $5 a month so I can buy more transistors or diodes or whatever, right? That was the thought. It would be offset my costs to buy like electronics components, because that's kind of what I started buying, was like raw components and LEDs and stuff. So when I made that video, it was like a training exercise, I guess. Like can I do this? And then I realized I could. I've always liked editing softwares and stuff. I used to, here's something you may not know about me. I used to make music when I was in high school. Bad music, but I used to make it. And so I was like familiar with editing software. I did photography for a long time, so I knew how to work Photoshop. Not very well, as you can tell by the thumbnail, but regardless. And then, I put it up hoping that one day I'd be a big YouTube channel. A couple months in, you realize YouTube is extremely difficult. It's not as easy as it looks. But I was just like, you know what? Screw it. I'm learning, like electronics. I'm learning the process. I'll just keep going. So that's kind of how we got to where I am today.
It's amazing how many views some of your early videos have too. That one is 7,600. Your eBay module caught fire, I think 50,000, 56,000, somewhere in that range. You just have a lot of those videos took off. Maybe not instantly, but eventually took off. Like you really started with some good solid videos. And
it's been downhill ever since.
No, yeah, you've got a few things going viral here and there, and it's that's one of those things, like we talk about it all the time. Like so many people want to tell you what you should and shouldn't make, and it is. I wouldn't say impossible, but it feels pretty much impossible to figure out what is going to take off and what isn't. Like it just really is. It's so hard to know what people are actually going to watch and what the algorithm will bless and all that stuff.
Oh, absolutely. Like the algorithm is the mistress here, because the algorithm is the reason why your channel and Pile of Stuff's channel and Gadget Reboot's channel and Billy Rubin's channel and my channel, it's the reason we're not at 100,000 subscribers. Because at this point, I don't see a single video from any of us that is any worse than a video from a channel with 100,000 subscribers. Like, obviously, someone like Big Clive, for example, is very analytical in what he does. Like he really can go down to the nitty gritty. And so, he's a 250,000 subscriber channel. But, the ones hovering in the hundreds of thousands, in the bottom hundreds of thousands, I don't feel like they're making better videos to us. Like, better. They're different. They're not better. They're very similar in quality and effort and editing and content and all this stuff. So I feel like the difference between us and them, and it's not to bring them down, it's that they have either been doing it longer, or the algorithm has blessed them, or their topics have been more searchable. But honestly, I don't feel like a Pile of Stuff video doesn't deserve 100,000 views every time he releases one. I don't feel like another maker video has any reason to not get 100,000 views, aside from the fact that we're not as discoverable. I think that's the big thing.
Yeah. Because, if you watch Julian Alette, he is a dang legend. But, like, if I watch your mailbag video or Pile of Stuff's mailbag video, or if I showed them to my wife, she wouldn't be able to tell which one of you has more subscribers than the other. Like, he's a legend, and I'll watch any mailbag video he puts out, and I'll watch any vocoder video he puts out. But, you can't tell by watching your video, that your channel would have less subscribers than his. Your mat is bigger. So, I would expect that means that you're on a bigger budget.
I've got 2 mats.
Wow.
Yeah.
Are they both purple?
Yeah.
That's a question I was going to ask. Where did you get the purple mat?
This is actually, you know what? It's a super common question. I should just make a YouTube video about it. So here it is. Especially for the men out there that want my purple mat, you're going to have to cinch up your belt and lift up your pants and go into the sewing section of your local Walmart. It is literally a sewing mat. So I know a lot of people won't be able to find it because they're too embarrassed to go into the sewing section or whatever. But honestly, that's where it is. They're actually really good. I bought mine specifically because when I went to a Walmart, there was these mats, and it was like a 2-pack for the price that I would assume was a single one. So I was like, well, it's a 2-pack. My desk is wide enough for 2 of these, so it's like basically half the price that I've seen them elsewhere. So yeah, I went and I bought them and brought them home. Then when I went to get another 2-pack for another workbench, I realized that what had happened is that they ship in 2-packs. It has an outer sort of plastic that the reps there are supposed to take off and then sell them individually. So I accidentally got 2 for the price of 1, and that's the genesis. So now, the Walmarts everywhere, they're all separated, so I can't get another set. So hopefully these mats last me a long time.
I'll have to check, because I go in the sewing section a fair amount because my wife has a Cricut, and so I'm always looking for little gifts and things there. But I don't think I've ever seen the purple mat there. I do have one more question about the mat that I'm sure people want to know. Why is it upside down?
Oh, it's upside down simply because I don't like the logo in shot. So I have it upside down so it's like the least obtrusive as possible. So basically, when I zoom in, you don't see it at all. But it's just I've upgraded my rig to have a little bit more of a wide angle for a lot of the bigger things. So you do see it on occasion. But generally, when I'm doing more close-up work, you don't see it, so it's not distracting.
So I always thought because the mat company is called Unique, I thought you just turned the mat upside down so that you would be unique.
I mean, that sounds way deeper, so let's do that one.
Okay, let's go with that. We can edit this later. No, we edit nothing except for my 17 mistakes at the beginning of the video.
And my 18.
Okay, so I have a question for you. You may have heard this before. But let's say that you get a government grant with a large source of funds, and they tell you that you can start any sort of business you want, but it can't be anything like a makerspace.
Oh, no.
What kind of business do you start?
Oh, I just go with the hookers and blow at that point.
Okay, yeah. I mean, and then, go ahead and waste the rest of it.
Oh, geez. It cannot be a makerspace.
I feel like that's too easy. I feel like we've all come somewhere down the makerspace, trail. So, yeah.
It has to be okay, but it has to be education for me. So
that's fine.
Basically, in university, I took a criminology program with a psychology minor. Now, don't get too excited. I didn't finish it because I got the job teaching at the college, which is basically my dream job. So yeah, I didn't finish it.
You did mention that. And you mentioned that you were doing something in the social sciences in your 2-year ago update video.
Yeah. So I'm 5 years into a 4-year degree and I'm not even done. So take it as you will. I'm a shitty student. But one of my classes, I was tasked with putting together like a program. Basically, it's to learn how to basically pitch the government for program money, because that's what criminologists do. Is they basically try to make other people's lives better, but the only people who would fund it is a government agency, because nobody cares about justice for criminals. So, anyways, my plan was to open a garage and teach at-risk youth during the day, like people that drop out of school or have drug issues or parent issues or whatever. I would take them into my shop and I would teach them the trade. And basically the idea is that maybe if they saw something in them, like a set of skills in them, like from a mentor, or they had positive influence in their lives, maybe they would, pick something great like being an electrician or something, because, being a mechanic sucks. And then after hours, like from 5 p.m. on, I would probably do the same sort of thing, but with people who were coming out of prison, or people who basically had no skills to support themselves or whatever. So that kind of thing. So my shop would run basically like a charity almost, but not quite, where we'd fix people's car and I would mentor people and whatever. Because don't forget, when I went to university, my goal was still to be some sort of educator. I love teaching people things. So I think that's the kind of business that I would do. Something like a nonprofit, sort of like skill sharing type. Oh, Skillshare. Maybe they want to sponsor the podcast. But anyways, I digress. Skill sharing sort of teaching thing. That's probably what I would do.
That's fun. I like it. Yeah. The worst comes to worst, you can open up a chop shop if it doesn't work out and use it for breaking down cars.
Yeah, because these people would have great connections, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I do have one more sort of YouTube-y question for you. And I know you've got a lot of awesome projects coming up that you're not ready to get into. But one of the things that kind of excites me, and I did a little homage to Top Gear, but you've got your multimeter gauntlet that you created. I'd love to know a little bit about how that came about and kind of where you see that going, because I love watching reviews of that stuff, but so much of it is subjective. Like Pile of Stuff did a great review on a clamp meter earlier in December, and it was really cool to see him go into work and to test these different things. But he's testing a single multimeter. You're building something so that you can get some concrete information on how these things work. And I'd love to hear a little bit about how that came about and kind of where you see that going.
Yeah, so basically, it started because Kai Wheats, which is a company I hadn't heard of, approached me about doing a multimeter review. And I mean, for me, getting a free multimeter is one thing, but I've got a ton of multimeters. And so I was like, well, whatever. Maybe my viewers would like to see it. And honestly, they seem like really nice people in the emails. I wasn't too excited about it. I kind of looked it up, another multimeter that kind of looked like a Transformers, that had a bunch of plastic all over it and whatever. I was like, okay, whatever, send it in. And they sent it in, and then and I actually didn't do a review of this meter yet, so that's coming in. Yeah, probably actually I have done it by the time you're listening to this, but I'm looking at it and it's nice, but it seems very beginner centric and nothing too special really. So I was like, well, this is kind of like a mid-tier multimeter. It's kind of like there's nothing special about it. The price isn't very special. It's not expensive, but it's also not very cheap. And I was like, man, how do I even test a multimeter? Like, do I just go and like shove it into the prong like I've seen a lot of people do? Like, I can do the usability. I can like turn the dial and I can look at the leads. But I mean, that's not that interesting to me because I mean, I'm not a difficult person. Kind of like anything is fine. And then I was like, well, what if it's inaccurate? Because a lot of people tell me, you know, I can't use my Mastercraft multimeters. Mastercraft's a Canadian company. It's Canadian Tire, basically. It's their house brand. They tell me all the time I can't use my Mastercraft meters because they're so inaccurate that it's like you might as well just guess at the numbers. And I was like, there's got to be a way to test accuracy. But I'm looking at Dave Jones from the EV blog. He's got like a multiple, basically one of those resistors with multiple values that you can change the values, and you know, to buy one's like $2,000, and I'm like, fuck, I'm not spending $2,000 on like a thing. And then I was like, well, maybe I can find some like 0.1% resistors and test those, because if the meter claims 0.05% accuracy and I can get 0.1% resistors, at least we'll be like in the same range. Because I remember Dave Jones talking about the 0.1% resistors. Then I look on Mouser and I see, hey, they have 0.01% resistors. These are like a serious deal. They're like real, like laser trimmed resistors, but they're expensive. So each one of those resistors is about $10 to $15 depending on the resistor value. And I'm like, man, 10 to 15 bucks? Like, are you kidding? So I put a bunch of them in my cart and I'm looking at it and I'm like, oh, you know, I could do it. I could invest and then maybe I can test a whole bunch of meters and have them compete against each other, which is coming. It hasn't been done yet because I have to figure out the point system. But I was like, okay, so maybe I'll try to make this. But first, let me pitch it to Kai Weitz, who sent me 2 meters by then. They had sent me a second one. I'll pitch it to them. See if they stand behind their product enough to pay for me to build a multimeter gauntlet to test their multimeter with. Because if they're not confident that their meter is going to be accurate, then what's the point of me like testing it and telling people, yeah, it's pretty good because it feels good in the hand. But 45 minutes after I sent them the proposal, they're like, yeah, do it. And they sent me money. And so I was like,
so awesome.
Yeah, I know. And so I was like, well, now I need to find out if they're bluffing. And now I'm excited to do a multimeter review, because what if this thing is actually as accurate as their leaflet says? What if this meter is not just a Chinese rebrand? What if this meter is super good? So, ordered the parts, built the gauntlet, tested the meter. Sure enough, the thing is so accurate, it's incredible. So this multimeter that I had zero hopes for, not zero hopes, I wasn't expecting a lot from it, especially for its price range, because I think the first meter I tested is I think it's like $50 or something. It's extremely cheap, $50 regular price. And sure enough, this meter is super accurate. And now I have this testing device that I can use for other multimeters. And by the way, for those of you who doubted, I tested my Mastercraft multimeter and it's actually really not bad. It's like it's within its spec sheet as well. So that's the genesis of the multimeter gauntlet.
I think that's going to be fantastic. And just, for years to come, you're going to have these, these actual representations of how good these meters are. And I think that could make you, a de facto place that people go to find this kind of information, especially in the makerspace. I think that's awesome.
Not only that, but now I have, I guess, a little bit of how the sausage is made. Now I have a leg to stand on when I contact suppliers and be like, hey, Fluke, do you think you're better than a Chinese multimeter? Better send me a meter.
That's there's something you have to see. I might have to send you a picture of it, but Harbor Freight is doing has a giant poster. Like, they're going at the throats of the big guys, and they, in fact, I think they might have even gotten in some legal issues with Snap-on. But they have their $49 meter versus a $200 Fluke meter, and they have a chart, just a giant 6-foot tall chart showing why theirs is better. And so it's kind of interesting to see how these companies are going after Fluke, and it would be really cool to to be able to get actual information on it. One thing just kind of popped into my mind during this is I don't think people understand when you look at YouTubers, and even when I had 500 subscribers, people started coming to me wanting to have me take a look at projects, which was probably more for my Arduino group than anything else, or products they wanted me to look at. But I don't think people who watch these videos have any idea how much work it is for a free $50 kit or a free $30 meter or something like that. Do you want to talk to that a little bit, just to kind of educate people who think that YouTube is, all about getting a bunch of free stuff?
Yeah. So, well, let me tell you, for the Kaiweets multimeter review alone, just that one, it was about 10 hours of work. So that's testing, or let's say doing an unboxing style shoot of it, where you have to get, obviously your angles right and everything. You have to test it. You have to do research on what it claims that it is. You have to go and check its availability. You have to check its price, because when you're making at least when I make a comparison, like, if I make a call, like, should you buy this? The price is a big factor, because if it performs really well, but it's 7 times the price as its competitors, then it's not worth it. So you have to check its price and its competitor's price. Like, what can you get for the same amount of money? Then you have to shoot all that, edit all that, and then you have to upload it. You have to shoot a thumbnail, edit the thumbnail, upload it. You have to do tagging. You have to do you have to add it into your regular workflow. You also have to communicate with the company. I think I have about 40 or 45 emails back and forth with Kaiweets. I have to also write long, basically essays, telling them that if they're sending me this, I get to be honest. They don't get to do any editorializing of my content. They don't get to editorialize the title. They don't get to editorialize anything, basically. The only way I would ever let any company editorialize my stuff is if I would do a show off of their product. So, like, if I wasn't reviewing it, I was just showing people what it can and can't do, then they would be allowed a light touch. But so far, I haven't even gotten any of those, because in order for me to do basically a commercial for them, they would have to pay me enough that upsetting some of my subscribers is worth it. So I haven't even done any of those. So yeah, it's about 10 hours, I think, of work. And obviously this is a like $52 multimeter. So yeah, so I worked for like $5 an hour on something I didn't really need, right? I don't need another multimeter. So yeah.
Yeah, I did that $3,500 Zero Plus logic analyzer, which is a fantastic device, and Zero Plus is just such a joy to work with and stuff like that. But it was months to learn how to use that device and to do it justice. I've seen a lot of reviews of that product where they just hook it up to an Arduino, do a little bit of serial data, and call it a day. I really wanted to learn how to use it, and it wasn't that it wasn't user friendly, but it's a complicated subject, and it took me months to kind of get a good enough handle to where I felt like I could talk about it and not sound like a complete moron. I'm the same way. I would never let anybody choose to edit my content and stuff. The one thing I have started doing is I have allowed the company to see the video primarily in case I say something factually inaccurate. I did a video turning a Raspberry Pi into a Thinks Canary, and the Canary people had a little bit of an issue with my take on it, and didn't think I was fair on the pricing and a few other things. And I asked them to send me some documentation, where it wasn't the price that I had taken from their website, and that's kind of where that ended. But I have had a couple of companies, more of me trashing their products, come back to me and want to have an opportunity to editorialize things. Backblaze, I get nonstop critiques from people who love Backblaze and don't like my video trashing that. So,
but is that Backblaze, or is that just the people watching it?
In the beginning, I got a little bit of pushback from Backblaze, from I guess I'd say some employees from Backblaze, but I mean they weren't able to help solve my issue. The very quick version of that story is Backblaze is a backup service that pushes itself as a set it and forget it backup. And I set it and started to forget it, and then realized that it wasn't actually backing up my files because it was stuck on one file. And so I spent a week going through their tech support trying to get them to back up my files properly, and they just never got it to work. And there's some design choices that they made that just, in my opinion, were poor design choices. And so I made a video pointing those things out. And there's a lot of people who push back on that video, but the fact is, there's just as many people in the comments saying, yeah, it didn't work for me, or they deleted my files, or just, all that kind of stuff. So obviously, it is kind of funny when people take a YouTuber's opinion that serious. People get pretty riled up about that particular one.
Especially a small YouTuber. That's on the Develop with Dan channel, isn't it?
I'm not sure. I think it might be on my Another Maker channel, but it could be Develop with Dan. I really don't know. It gets a fair amount of videos for what it is, for being a 10-minute rant. And I was pretty harsh. My opinion was I don't think anybody should use it. And I really believe that, because they made some decisions that the very quick version of it is they force you, unless you go through a lot of hassle, to back up your C drive. And a lot of people don't want to back up their C drive. And the problem with backing up your C drive is if a file is in use, the way their software is set up is it will stop backing up the entire queue because it's waiting for one file. I don't know why they never figured, hey, let's just move on to another file and live to fight another day, but they literally stop the backup process if they can't back up a single file. And so it doesn't take much to bork the whole system. And I mean, I write software for a living. That is a stupid decision. Like, it just is. And, so yeah, it's a little bit of controversy, but it's fun. It's I get some. I'll say I don't have another video on any channel that gets the kind of harsh comments that one gets. That's kind of fun.
I don't understand, because if they wanted to hire somebody to make their software better, you would probably charge them something like $10,000 to go through their code and come up with the same stuff. So you're basically doing like a consulting job for them for free, and for some reason they're not just paying you for it.
Well, and it goes beyond that. In talking to the people at the company, there are some of those things are design choices. They want the data on your C drive. They just want to have it. And there are some decisions that they made. I talked to the people who wrote the code, and it's not accidental. Like, it is intentional that some of those things are the way they are. Now, I found out later that there is a way to prevent it from backing up the C drive, but it's not documented. And in a week of talking to people in support saying that there was a file stuck on my C drive, they never told me how to do it. So, it's just ridiculous to me. It's sort of like, I kind of liken it to the fact that they have an Apple complex. Steve Jobs basically said that you're going to have the iPhone that we say you're going to have. And the attitude that the developers conveyed to me was the CEO basically says, you're going to have this product and we're going to tell you what's best, and that's it. And what's best is to back up your C drive. And they think that I'm not smart enough to decide I don't want my C drive backed up.
That's really interesting. Do you ever watch Linus Tech Tips at all?
I do.
Okay, so they're also a big inspiration for me. Like when I want to up my quality game, I'm looking, in their direction. They did a secret shopper 2 years ago where they bought systems from like 8 different vendors, and then they judged it. They basically used an employee that wasn't a computer person to order them, and then they they unhooked some of the RAM to see how tech support would deal with it, and they also ran it through benchmarks, see how much you get for your money, and etc. And they just did another more recent one. I think it would be really interesting for you as a coder to do a sort of undercover secret shopper thing like that as well, for stuff that you understand well, and see which companies do it the best. I'm not sure because obviously I know nothing about programming, so I'm not sure if that's something that you could see it as a possibility, or if it's completely undoable, but it would be interesting.
I love that. This is just kind of a little side story. Yeah, along those lines, like I used to build custom PCs and ship them all the time, and UPS just absolutely smashed one of the PCs that I had shipped. And in the process, when the person was shipping it back to UPS for the warranty service, somehow the computer wound up at my door. And so I had the computer that was damaged, and I called UPS to ask if they were going to cover the warranty claim. And they said no. They said they have to do an investigation on it. And so, I know the entire time the computer's sitting right next to me. So they're telling me, okay, we're going to do, we're going to do an investigation on it. We'll get back to you. And then they're like, they get back to me a couple days later, and they're like, yeah, we're looking at it, and it's really clear that you didn't pack it right, and blah, 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 blah. And I was like, well, take pictures of it and send them to me. I want to see how I didn't pack it right. And they're like, no, we don't really do that kind of thing. I was like, okay, well, ship me the computer back then, and we'll forget the warranty claim. I just want my computer back. And finally, they wound up, they never admitted that they didn't actually physically have the computer, and they wound up just paying me off. But support has always been bad, and it feels like it might be getting a little bit worse. I'd love to do that. I think it's a lot of fun.
That is so sleazy. That's incredible. I have another video idea for you. I know this is supposed to be about me, but you're interesting, so I got you here. And I'll even fund this if you want to. I'll help fund, maybe. There is a series of videos on YouTube that a lot of people have tried where they go on Fiverr. Do you know about that website?
Oh, yeah.
So they go on Fiverr and they hire somebody to do something that they can already do, and they compare the price brackets. Like they hire someone at $5, at $10, at $20, at $100, and then they compare the job that they've done. I would be so interested in a Fiverr software dev, for example, if you going over their code, what they've done for $5 or $10 or $100.
Ooh, I love that. Yeah, that's a lot of fun. To be honest, on my channel, one of my New Year's resolutions is to get away from the product reviews. Like I have a lab full of stuff, and I give away as much stuff as I could physically give away. So, I might, if I find a product that's really interesting, I may still do it. But for the most part, I want to get back to doing more projects and more things that I find fun. Like I love the investigative idea, just some more creativity. I've looked at enough Arduino kits.
I might do the same. Maybe we should make a pact to do a Fiverr video, because maybe I get someone on Fiverr to make boards, and then I'll order them through PCBWay or something.
Yes, I love it, and just put it together and see if it actually works.
Yeah, that'd be great. I think that'd be fantastic.
Yeah, got to do it. So, tell everybody where they can find you.
This podcast at the moment, you can find me right here on any platform that you want. I actually jumped through the hoops and got the podcast onto Google Play Music, I think it is now, Apple Podcasts. I've got Anchor. I've got lots of places you can listen to the podcast, so that's a great place. But in order to reach me, though, you would really have to go to my YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/simpleelectronics. Not Simply Electronics. There's no offense with the Simply Electronic, but when I made my name, I wasn't thinking, and it's very similar. So yeah, don't accidentally subscribe to him. If you want to subscribe to him, go and purposely subscribe to him. You can also find me on Patreon, patreon.com/simpleelectronics, if you just like to support what I'm doing, don't feel obliged. I've got 20-ish patrons, and they're really nice people. So I'm not going broke doing this, but it's also not paying for even the equipment buy-in. So, I mean, it just is what it is. And also, I mean, it's the holiday season. Spend the money on your family. Don't spend it on me. But what you should do, though, is go over to Another Maker's channel, because I'm sure he wouldn't do it for you or tell you to do it. Go on his channel, hit that subscribe, type in the comment section that you've heard of him from the end of my podcast, which is going to be a very small selection of you people. So we'd like to hear from you.
You guys are saints if you make it this far.
And yeah, that's about it. Those are the best places. Oh, you can find me on Twitter these days too. I think it's at YouTube_simple. Yeah, that was an unfortunate choice, but it is what it is.
Well, I want to say, I really appreciate you giving me this opportunity, and I'm hope that the people who are listening to this are excited to learn new things about you and learn a little bit more about you as a person. You're a really cool guy, and you're more than a mechanic and a YouTuber. Like, you're just a cool guy, and I've really enjoyed talking to you and learning a little bit about you, and I am really honored to get to do this. So thank you.
Well, thank you so much for saying that. I'm thoroughly blushing now. And yeah, thanks for spending the time and being the host.
You are absolutely welcome. Anytime.
Thanks for listening, guys.